Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work with us. And this Friday is no different than any other, so let's get rolling here. Dan is up first.
Hi. This piece is called Going Vroom on an Area Rug. Okay. The past 3 weeks have been hell. My voices disagree, but that's kind of what they're there for. Amongst the trauma flashbacks, I get a clear memory of driving a Hot Wheels car around my grandma's throw rug. I have the disposable income to fulfill the image immediately, but there's this weird guilt around buying myself a toy meant for ages 3 and up. 35 is within that range officially, but it takes weeks before I go to Amazon and purchase a set of 2 monster truck Hot Wheels. They don't let you choose the exact design of either truck, which is kind of a bummer, but I imagine this is just one more of my habitual surrenders to La Fortuna, the wheel of fate. Writing hasn't been going so well. On the dosage of antipsychotics I'm on, I don't have thoughts that aren't immediately chased away by voices. The voices all have distinct personalities. A lot of times the childish ones sing out nonsensical commands, while the adults ominously guide my thought processes and habits. We've been in conflict recently, and I've succumbed to being mostly bedridden throughout the day, only leaving the bed to eat, go to the bathroom, and smoke cigarettes, and sometimes go out and buy beer, another habit which provides temporary relief, but probably won't help me long term. This is half a rut and half writer's block, I decide. A fast-moving deep river that takes all effort to not drown in it. Alan Watts said, "The psychotic drowns in the same water the mystic swims in, and once I may have swam easily, the undertow of these waters is a bit much for me anymore." In Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, she describes the artist state where you take yourself out to lunch and go to a dollar store or other shop that sells tchotchkes and find something that speaks to you. If only it's a silly little thing that makes you feel better for an afternoon. I used to do this a lot when writing because because it was the one time of day that made me feel less than depressed and forced me to explore the small village I live in. While most of the restaurants in town here have closed up shop, I still have the opportunity to buy something small and silly and make myself feel better. The 2 Hot Wheels monster trucks have reconnected me to the very few fond childhood memories, driving a toy car and going vroom on an area rug. I tell a few close friends what I've done. Careful to preface the conversation with, "You'll never believe what I just bought," just to stir the pot of their possible reactions on Messenger. Most are sensitive to the idea of the inner child, but I'm not too sure I can tell the truth. I can't like writing. I can via writing or spoken out loud during a live video chat. During the most psychological, tormentative moments when I was in and out of hospital, I started regressing to a childlike state. I kept repeating, "I get to live," while wearing a onesie in a slowly leaking bathtub full of warm water. The other voices were disgusted at that being what was lurking in my subconscious all along. A child stressed and chronically homeless, overjoyed at the prospect of getting to live. Not live in a nice house, not live in a nice family, not live in a stable environment, but live, just live. Survive long enough after experiences like that, and soon just breathing in a quiet moment hidden under the covers is all the vacation I need. Now that I'm somewhat stable, I get to go vroom on an area rug with a toy monster truck. It will probably take a few days from when I write this before the cars are delivered, probably in a small plastic envelope unceremoniously dropped off on the front steps, but I cannot wait. Now, when the voices begin to pester me, I can tell them, "Fuck you, wait till I've got my cars." I'm not taking calls until then, and for now they just have to deal with it. My onesie is hung up on a hook, waiting for that moment where I can escape to a fantasy world no video games can ever provide. The world that existed in the moments where I was taken away from childhood, the addiction problems in my family, and the near constant stress and conflict dug a deep trench, too deep and dangerous to swim in. This new world is as shallow and lightly sloped as a sandy beach. It's warm in that place, and the big wheels of a die-cast car can easily traverse those tiny sand dunes made by gentle waves. That's it.
Oh man, Dan, I love the "I get to live" moment in this piece because it's like so psychologically true. Like I've had moments just like that, right? Where like, especially coming out of a real depressive funk, and when you're depressed, you have many moments where you seriously think, oh, well, this is it, fuck this is it. And then when it happens rarely, but you come out of it to that point where you say like exactly what you say here. I get to live, and I love that you put a question mark at the end of that, because like the incredulity that you feel this like simultaneous moment of like joy and incredulity at the fact that you're still fucking alive, and that you've been, and the I get to live, like that sense of you've been allowed to, right? Not that it's some choice that you've made, but that somehow like you've been allowed to continue to survive. And you capture it so perfectly. Like the, this is a piece about mental illness that is uplifting without having a single moment of bullshit in it. Because most like uplifting stories about mental illness are about like recovery and escape, and are oftentimes like premised either on like therapy speak, or it's premised like on the idea of like some kind of like permanent salvation from mental illness. And instead, like you really focus on those moments of respite when like it recedes here, and when you're able to like capture those moments that feel like childhood again, or that feel like where you're able to make some kind of nostalgic connection and actually experience a positive emotion. And it's good. It's good shit, Dan. I think you should keep going with it, because um, this, a lot of your pieces are like definitively like auto-fictional, right? But this actually feels more like a personal essay or an article style piece. And I'd like to see you keep going with it and flesh it out, and end up with something that's even bigger, because it's kind of a stylistic departure for you in some interesting ways. So
Yeah, it is. Thank you. I've thought about fleshing it out more, but it's just got to like it's got to sit for a bit and like simmer.
yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah, I really, really like the idea of like revisiting childhood, but on like better terms or different terms, and the way you use the Hot Wheels and stuff. Especially there's a part in the last paragraph. This new world is shallow and lightly sloped as a sandy beach. It's warm in that place, and the big wheels of a die-cast car can steadily traverse those tiny sand dunes. I love that phrasing there, because it's like showing how play and like a toy and stuff can get into those hard to scratch psychological places, hard to scratch psychological itches, and kind of satiate things that can't be done in with therapy or with other stuff. Yeah, I just really like that conceit, basically.
Thanks. I mean, I've heard of people experimenting with like play therapy, where we're just bringing people together to just do the things they did, which is like a weird thing, because like the criticisms leveled at millennials is that they're stuck in a permanent state of like regressive childhood, right? But yeah, these are the things that help some people get better, or give them something at least to hope for every in a week cycle.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with that, like the therapeutic power of like just playing.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Rudy, you're up next.
Alrighty, so I'm pulling up more Pale Manipulator music here. These four, I'm gonna read four of these. They're basically short flash pieces centered around this conceit of a bunch of child soldiers stealing a necromancer's Spotify premium account, and they get cursed to live out the songs on that playlist forever and ever, forever, ever, forever, ever. So I'll start this forever, ever. For a long time. I mean, I don't know. Oh, sorry.
Now, are you going to do that song tonight? Because do you have one based on Miss Jackson?
I actually don't yet, no. But Rib, I'm that's on my list to do. That's on the playlist. But the first one, I'm going to start it out right with a piece called Superman, and it's based on Chief Keef's superheroes. So yeah, November 13th. Within the magic of a song is its ability to transport you to someplace else. Today, we are very much in the nethers of an elsewhere. We emerged early this morning in rain with Josh the Commander wading through confused apologetics from our two scouts, who were Corinne and John Paul, past tense. Corinne and John Paul's retirement works out for us. We are promoted to taking point. After the two of us receive our Pink Scout recon badges, bedazzled and glittering just as we are, we forge ahead through the wilderness. We find a highway to the north and follow it diligently while others creep behind in the side gullies and brush. Our promotion has come with additional kit, a skateboard and 2 pairs of basketball shoes that feel like tap dancing on cotton. Kit may be a misnomer. Commandeered grave goods is probably better, though personal effects works best, I believe. We glide across the asphalt, levitating. A large green sign protests our march, so we fill it with holes before Nissa tells everyone to stop. She can read it. York, she cries out, running her fingers over the white patches that have not been completely aerated by 762. Josh is making a face. The word dork is so big in his head that I can see it from here, though he is not saying as much due to his unexpressed affections towards Nissa. A dork is the part of whales used for domesticating their females. I doubt he will domesticate Nissa unless it is with a stack of books or something heavier. Anne spies a great camp on a mountain. It is a foreboding structure that mimics the pines around it, with a roof of green and large awnings. Its position on the mountaintop means that the high breezes disperse its weird vibes onto us, Josh indicates. He says we must destroy it. Nissa disagrees, saying it is an asset to be studied. Josh is gesturing at a passage in the field manual, which he claims to have read, and Nissa is reading from it. Flare. The flare is a chemically charged shell that, when fired by a Dwarven mortar team, can reveal areas and enemies that are difficult to see or otherwise cloaked by invisibility or shadow meld. Nissa looks surprised. Josh folds his arms over his chest, nodding like Mussolini, the hidden character in Mario. The commander orders the mortar team forward. We will gain valuable intelligence from this, Josh assures everyone. Nissa just smiles. To our surprise, however, shots ring out, which, like the little girl emerging from the TV at 3 a.m., scares the shit out of everybody. One mortar man has sprung a leak. I start to rip my shirt, but the medic has already applied at least 3 band-aids. Someone says, carry this ammo to the tree line, so I do. It is me and Anne settled snugly in a ditch. Nissa is directing our fire at one of the turrets on the building, occasionally adjusting our rifle glyphs and saying things like 120 meters or 200 meters while we laugh and shoot. Nissa's gun has a laser pointer strategically appended to it with masking tape. Her bullets obey commands tirelessly. Zug zug. Our power is overwhelming, so we win. We are up on the mountain faster than a speeding faggot running in tights that also run. Show your hands, we insist. It is a motley crew that has opposed us. But they're mostly our age, so it's all fair. They are let out one by one and asked to give names so that Nissa can create good markers. We afford them this because they fought well. Kaufman, says one. Josh coughs for effect. No one laughs, so he does it again. Then people do. Bergman, says another, presumably the NCO of the cooks. Newman, a particularly diminutive one, says. He looks heartbroken. Fucking new guy, half our squad yells, tearing up with glee. You're old man today, friend. He is patted magnanimously on the shoulder, around the waist where a sidearm is discovered. Then his tennis shoes are slipped off. Then he is beaten. A graying, short-statured officer locks eyes with Josh and says, "Seagull," quietly. "It seems they are out of mans," Josh chortles conspicuously. "Is that like the bird?" "It's like your fucking mom, you little prick," he responds, smirking. Josh quick draws his revolver like he is in a Wild West movie, and there is a credible threat to his existence. Both of these are untrue currently, but the song is changing soon. They stare each other down. This bird is blowing a raspberry with his lips as Josh cracks open his revolver. I could stick a peace sign into the empty bullet rooms like I'm the Stooges blinding parallel worlds. "If you win, bird, your men fly. Go." Josh gestures. "If I win, I am the one who is flying. We go." Josh spins the chamber and puts the gun to his own head. He pulls the trigger. It feels like the planet is spinning counter to us in spite. Josh survives to spin again, then hands the weapon to the Seagull. When he brings the weapon to his wrinkly temple and fires, his gray-white particulates are thrown like dirty silverware against the front of the building. "Ko-bang!" Someone cries out. This is Jaws on the ground when Josh saunters over. Trace amounts of disappointment hamper his gait. Today, I am not Superman. Okay, so this next one here, this one is called "Something Nobody Would Ever Wish Upon Themselves or Anybody Else." And it is inspired by the Linda Linda song called "Magic." January 14th. The scrolls of doom are what the big one has now bound this world with. It was more like hog tying than binding, and in broad daylight, not in the darkness like when the last guy tried it. Doom is algorithmic, which means it is like taking into account the average heartbeat and pulse of life. This is why the big one has control over all life, because she is always playing the rhythm of the moment. All moments are now recorded, so it is easy to remix and shuffle them. This is why the last guy failed. The technology to record moments did not yet exist when he set his armies on the march, so he had to reproduce them through memory. Our fate is sealed in the scrolls. It can be seen on most devices with a swipe. The scrolls are mostly infinite, and you can see yourself and your friends and strangers there. For example, we, in a foolish gamble to get unlimited music, used a trick from a stranger who roamed the scrolls under a cloak of obscurity. It was not me who orchestrated this, it was Anne, honestly. The stranger bid us do an exchange of cookies or some devilment, which should have gotten us free Spotify. I do not know the exact mints. I should not have gone along with a plan to accept sweets from strangers. Anyway, it is a pastime of most nights to be viewing the scrolls. Some old ones, men from an age when the magic binding was done with yarn instead of zip ties, regularly accost me for my love of, say, poring over the scrolls for visions of cute animals. "Are you a faggot?" they ask me. "You could be staring into the void of girls," they assure me. "You could be playing soccer, something real, vital," they tell me while gripping my shoulder hard. "You should give us that device, my love," they beg me. Give us that. I have seen my death in the scrolls, forecast by pictures of those who look like me. I have wished death on others through my proclamations there, such as the time when a political officer bid me tell the device half-truths about our readiness to bolster morale. "I am coming to kill you," I said, snickering until a strong backhand corrected my posture. "I'm coming to where you live, to kill you." The next one's called "Bird." It's inspired by the Trashmen song called "Surfin' Bird." August 19th, contact. Words and intonations are now hitting danger close to our point of engagement. Friendly fire has taken some of my comrades, but not me. Regardless, this field is lost. A secret dungeon in Harvest Moon where you are being convinced that extra work is fun because your friends may not have unlocked it yet. Our cavalry has been cut apart. There is just 4 of us: Anne, Corinne, Dredge, myself. 4 is a number I know intimately because the woman in the red shirt has instilled it inside of me by saying, "The 4 of you are here," to the point of upchuck. I am struck repeatedly by her cadence. My body is weeping shards of 4. There is writing on a board. There is writing on a paper near me. I am drawing the word of the day from the board, first semi-consciously tracing shapes, then fully automatic, tuned out, dropped in, war fog. The word is bird. I know not because I have read it. I cannot. Bird is like a chick in the odes to red dirt that jingle in the West. My eyes and fingers follow its shapes, but its letters, they are jerking me around mostly. The bird is the word. The word is bird. Here is bird in a sentence. Bird penitentiary. Here is bird used with other words I cannot spell out. Here is bird on a surfboard, drawn between yawns and long faces and bad feelings to stretch out the torture. At some point, another is coming in, some kid I don't recognize. Now 4 is a dead name. We are 5. I put my head down. The teacher is asking me to spell out bird. I can't. She is tormenting me with this fact. Don't you know, becomes her inquisition. Shame is hot, like on that medieval TV show. Soon, there is another adult here. She is a skeleton without the tactical usefulness of one, a pretty corpse or an ugly social worker. She is fishing for obedience. Are you making trouble? I bite. Her. Many adults are in and out of this room. They are outside of the numbers, an endless set, while I'm on their stage performing one. White lights, heckling. Open your mouth. A confused dove hits the window outside. So this last one is called Still on the Line, and it's inspired by Wichita Lineman by Glenn Campbell. Hell yeah, Glenn Campbell. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's
Show some
Daddy's.
love.
It's
Daddy-
Daddy's phone.
Daddy loves Glenn Campbell. Yeah, Daddy likes, I guess.
Guess so. I think, did Daddy just bail? I was going to
Oh, rip. I saw he had his hand up, or Daddy had it. I don't know.
That seems like a real waste.
Yeah,
of
wait,
the
missed
opportunity
opportunity.
to troll. I don't even know what the fuck.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird.
Saw you.
Like he had his hand up. I'm not sure. Okay. So anyway, this is called Still on the Line, Wichita Lineman. March 15th. One of the funniest types of simps in our company is the layman. Laymen are toadies for the book-sniffing acolytes who got their start at the big one, Scholarmance, which is an apex predator similar to the K-12 child eater, but one that preys only on adults. I was a layman for about a fortnight before I decided that shooting is better than building. That's a Fortnite joke. It is a stupid job. Mostly, you drag lengths of yarn behind the acolyte while they mumble and listen to nothing but the sound of the arcane on repeat, like it is Tierra Whack's 15-minute album. There are lines far beneath the earth that they are hearing somehow, and these produce magic for increasing our witch readiness. The yarn is for redirecting these lines. To use it skillfully is like diverting rivers and streams, but without the honesty of manual work. The upside to being a layman is that you are always hearing the big one's voice. She has many evenings in a 3-way call with the planet, creator, and her own person. I listened as I untangled threads, and sometimes felt she spoke to me and to me alone. She would say things like, I am sending many good soldiers to you, my best, or we will be needing an overload in sector 314, grid coordinates 3 scry 46 and 2, or I wish you would come here and strike me down. The last one in particular rode in my head, which in my younger days was mostly a freight hauler that any vagrant could hop. The big one is like that Roger Miller hobo. She is knowing of all the children, their true selves, and is adept at entering uninvited. It was my pleasuring to stage many nighttime head plays where she was a main character. She struck me, I struck her. It was pinball, parts of my head lighting up. Pinball, and when it came time to be putting my initials into the machine, I would always mash the buttons with blinding speed. In the end, I was usually the Zorro mark 3 times over. Then, the black of reset. I tire recounting the past. The acolyte discharged me after he found out I could not read or write. I was disappointed. Today, I'm riding in the commander's flag truck. She is at the wheel speaking softly. We are passing through this area where a great rout has happened, with our forces scattered to the winds by blue and black helmets. There is a layman hanging off the barbed wire, skull exposed. I smile. Fucking simp. And that's it.
Man, man, these are good as usual, and they're good for a lot of the reasons that they're usually good. I love. I always talk about your wordplay and stuff, but I love the extended riff on layman here. Like, obviously, like the way you've bet, like the idea of basically a civilian or a civilian corps kind of person in war, the way you've taken that and combined it with like the fantasy elements, so like finding the ley lines and all of that, and you've packaged it all in this pun that is more than just a pun, right? Like it captures, it's doing work in the story, because it's like dealing with her. Well, I say her. I guess the narrator in this one could be male too, but dealing with like the narrator's weird resentment towards like civilian life and towards like like the professional kind of military like civvy thing, and it deals with that in a really funny way that stays within the weird fantasy setting that you've created. But the one that really fucking jumped out at me from this set though is Bird, because Bird is so much a reminder that these are child soldiers, right? But it's childish in a way that most stories about child soldiers aren't. Like usually fiction tends to use the like child half of the child soldier thing in a pretty rote and emotionally manipulative way. Like they become children again when we need to like emphasize the horrors of war, right? They become children in ways that are like, oh, there's actually so much innocence below the surface and so on, whereas you like really lean heavily into the like ignorance and playfulness of childhood in this Bird thing. Like so much of it rests on like, I don't know, just like the basic conceptual like ignorance of childhood, right? And in a way that isn't like cute or cloying, but is just like, yeah, like these are dumb, silly kids who have been sent to war, and I don't know, I appreciate that. So that piece really jumped out at me.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, about that one, like the Trashmen song just seemed perfect for how, like to kind of satirize like the educational establishment. It's like, because he's repeating the bird, fucking bird is
Right.
the word. It's like, and like,
Right. It feels so much like some like silly like lesson for teaching kids how to read or something, even though that's not.
yeah, I mean, that's almost what, yeah. But the other one, the one about the layman, like I listened to Wichita Lineman, and I was like, well, like a lot of that song is really kind of weird and like darkly, about unrequited type of love. and stuff, because like he's listening in on the line. He's putting the thing on the line so he can listen to this woman and having like fantasies about her, and like his life with her and stuff like that. And like so, like the whole thing with the big one is that it's this inaccessible you know figure that one kind of has it out for them because she's obviously like cursed them and all this other stuff. But then it's like this kid is he's really like kind of obsessed with her too, so it's like this unreciprocated love type of situation.
Right. And I mean, the way it ends with the simp line is so perfect because it's at once like, yeah, he's making fun of this civvy guy who's like not in combat like he is, right? But also because he's simping for the lich, right?
Yep,
Or
that's that
Olgae.
subset.
Yeah. Yeah, no, these are great, man. So Mark is up next. And then after that will be Keith, and then we will have some time after that probably if anyone else wants to read. Okay, it's all yours, Mark.
Hello. I'm again online at stupid o'clock when I should be asleep, but I'm not. This is a thing that I wrote for the new expat thing, and they have not got back to me, and how very dare they? It's called Weekend. The emptiness of Friday night when it comes is pure relief. After struggling through another week at work when he still isn't well but can't afford to take off any more time, the nothingness is blissful. He stays up until 2 or 3, sleeps in until the same. By this point, the Saturday sunlight, if there is any, and increasingly there is, seems less enticing. Most of the day is gone now. He needs to get food, sure, but that's an errand. Headphones jammed in. He buys enough groceries to last him a few days. They will spoil sometime midweek. Saturday night is when it starts. You can feel the barrenness somehow stack cubic inch upon cubic inch. Gas leaks are often invisible, they say. That's what he is. He had talked to his colleagues, an amorphous shifting mass, about what is going on, about how he is sick and that the medication isn't helping, and that they tell him that that's terrible, or they offer him generic and often bad advice because it doesn't affect them. They don't miss him when he's not there. The high cubicle walls take care of that. He calls his ex. They can't talk. They are on holiday. They are going through a tunnel. They are at their sister's. He tries to read the books scattered around his bed. He can't focus. He looks up inability to focus as a symptom. He watches a Welsh teenage girl talk about depression. He calls his brother, who tells him it's late and that he'll call him tomorrow. He wakes after lunch on Sunday. No notifications. Diffused muted light bleeds through the glass of his bedroom window, frosted so his neighbor can't look right in. He opens it and sees their opaque window facing him. The wind is barely there. It feels like breath on his neck. He closes the window. He is dizzy to the point of nausea, so he lies back down. He gets under the covers because he lives alone and is an adult and can do whatever he wants. He watches the world through his phone. They are all just recordings. Nothing outside actually exists. His bladder forces him to heave himself to the toilet, his stomach is the fridge. He goes into Netflix, but there's nothing new. There hasn't been in a while. He pads around his apartment, willing the nausea to go away, the pain to subside. Referred pain, they said. Another way of saying that they don't know where it is. He stares at the medication his doctor gave him almost a month ago. Suddenly, he runs to the door and opens it, as if trying to catch the world in a lie. The street is empty. The wind rustles the trees. At the base of their trunks are piles of leaves in strange, infected colors. His body lurches with the dizziness of a drunk hitting the night air. He goes in, closes the door, and falls into the sofa. He looks at contacts in his phone, at calls made and received. He filters it to incoming calls only. He lets the phone drop from his hand instead of looking because of looking. He naps, which is how he presents it to himself, as a nap, not as sleep clawing him back into its depths. He wakes and it is evening. He watches YouTube. He tries and fails to read. He scrolls his phone. He knows he should sleep, but the body needs sleep to function, and that tomorrow he will be expected to function. His voice, following a script, carefully herding unexpected shoppers through a bunch of false outcomes until he lands on a sale, leaving them with a kind word and a promise of their life. An AI could do much better than his monotone patter and wouldn't have any of these emotions or flaws. His brother doesn't call. He doesn't shower. He wakes up in the middle of the night to the sound of a loud crash, like a meteorite ripping through the entire center of the street. He checks outside, but there is nothing. He swears that in the morning he will ring the doctor and arrange a checkup. He catches himself praying, but feels too far gone to not go with it. He wakes on Monday morning and decides that he can't do it anymore. All he wants is the stillness that didn't work yesterday, the peace that he tried to and failed to get on Saturday. He thumbs in the number for his office. It rings out. He tries 2-3 more times, but no one answered. He checks in on the world. After half an hour of scrolling, his phone appears to be showing him the world from Tuesday 3 weeks ago. His clock and his calendar hung on his wall so he can exit the days one at a time, show him the right date and time, but everything else is wrong. He tries to ring his office again, but there is no network signal. He goes to the door. The branches are bare, their leaves purple and orange and burnt sit encircling the base. Wind blows them gently in dancing circles. There is no one around. He takes painkillers preemptively and goes back to bed. He wakes at lunchtime and the phone network still hasn't come back. Are there angry messages out there, undelivered in the ether, wondering where he is? He prepares a makeshift meal from leftovers in the fridge. He writes messages to his ex, his brother. He presses send and they fail to depart. He sleeps more, can always sleep more at any given moment, and wakes in darkness. He flicks a switch, but the electricity is gone. He doesn't search for candles or a lighter, knowing he has neither. He shrugs on pants and heads to the 24-hour shop. The leaves are everywhere. The shop is closed. He walks along the street and onto another and another. He used to walk this route for exercise, back when he looked forward to weekends. After half an hour trudging through larger and larger piles of leaves littering every road, he decides to brazenly look through windows of the next house he passes. An empty room. He checks the next. Leaves had blown in through an open window covering the carpet. In another, a fridge door was left open and the food within was starting to turn. He loops back to the shop and breaks the window. No alarm sounds. He grabs a box of candles and a couple of lighters. He figures he should take more. He could take anything having crossed that line, but laughing to himself, decides he can come back tomorrow, that it will all still be there. The sound of his laughter shocks him, and like looking into a mirror and seeing and feeling oneself move simultaneously, he feels like he is back in his body. There is a vague notion that things will get worse, and all of this will bring a whole new set of problems, but he can push that away. He is an expert at doing that. Having heard himself laugh, he finds himself humming on the walk home. He lights the candles and, heading into his windowless bedroom, stretches out his arm into the darkness and finds a book. He doesn't remember where he got it. It doesn't even matter what it is. He has time now. He goes into the sitting room and reads by candlelight until the candle burns out and his body naturally and easily falls asleep. That's it.
Mark, that was a phenomenally powerful piece. I mean, so it happens sometimes at Misery Loves Company where a piece will just catch me because it's like the piece I needed to hear this week. And I have had I've been really deep in the dark depression pit this week. And you really perfectly capture in this piece and like how it feel like the feeling of like that very particular strain of really deep, dark, alienating depression where the world just recedes. And I know that the like conceit of Expat 5 is basically like the post-human world, or like fiction after humanity, or without humanity. And I love the way you've used that conceit here to like really explore the complete barren isolation and alienation of depression, and how the way, like I said, that the world just fucking falls away and recedes. And you've done something really smart here, which is before you arrive at your conceit, you've taken a lot of time to really hone in and sketch out in a very precise way your character's mental state. And I think when the like supernatural or metaphorical or like magical payoff arrives, like it's so much more powerful because you're already so deep in this character's depressive state. It's a really, really fucking good story. And fuck it, if Manny doesn't take this, I'm gonna I'm gonna say something to him.
Please do. Thank you for your comments. It's lovely. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Hopefully you're doing okay.
Yeah, no, it is what it is, right? With depression, it's kind of like you basically just have to have the perspective that like, well, I've been here before and it recedes eventually, so it's kind of, I'm in the pit right now, but I think you weather it and you keep your fingers crossed. But thank you so much, Mark. That was a fucking phenomenal piece.
Thank you for having me again.
Keith is up next, and after nobody is signed up right now to go after Keith. So if you would like to read after Keith, just say something in the chat, because it's only 9 o'clock. We can go at least for another hour here if people want to, or not if people don't. Okay, Keith, it's all yours.
Thanks, William. So this is a piece I wrote a few months ago, and it was inspired by some Twitter drama around whether writing is cathartic or not, or can be cathartic. It's titled "The Catharsis of Writing." From Google Dictionary: catharsis, noun, the process of releasing and thereby providing relief from strong or repressed emotions. I'm back in high school. I'm in 9th grade English. My teacher is iconic. She intimidates and inspires. I'm in 10th grade English. My teacher is praising the lies in my journal. She loves my writing. She wants more. I want to give her more. I want to satisfy her. I love her. She's my favorite teacher of all time. I'm in 11th grade English. My teacher is not a good person. The word to describe her is not a nice word, and since I try to be a good person, I will not use that word. One day I'll let you see my high school journal. I've held on to it for a long, long time. I know right where it is, and occasionally I'll read it and think about my 10th grade English teacher. Insofar as I know, no one else has ever seen my journal or even knows about it. Not even my wife, now that I think about it. In some form or other, I've been writing all of my life. I even had a poem published once. My works are all hiding in plain sight. One day, so many people are going to be so surprised they never had any idea about my hidden talent. If they desire to share my work, I have granted my permission in my archives. In fact, modestly, I've insisted it be shared. I've taken the liberty to write subtle notes about all my work, the submissions process, and a list of my favorite endearing alt-lit friends and publishers. Right now, the treasure finders don't even know what submissions and alt-lit means, but they will one day. They should have been paying more attention. And trust me, folks, I'm going to take care of those who took care of me. You can bank on that. And I hope that my treasure trove of literature makes the world happy and enriches everyone's lives. I'm sorry. I apologize for getting sidetracked. Sometimes when I write, I wander off into daydreams. I'll get back to the story. My teachers are all dead now. I am alone in a sea of the dying, flailing helplessly against time. One day I'll be back in class with my favorite teacher, but that day will not be today. How can a man be saved from his mortality? I know the answer. I pick up my pen. It's a very nice pen. It's a Cross fine point black ink pen. I've had it for years. I love it. It feels so good between my fingers. It's so sensual. I'm writing on 3-hole punch, loose leaf notebook paper, 8 by 10.5, regular ruled. No fancy word processing computer for me at this point. The first draft is always handwritten, printed, no cursive, old school. That's my rule most of the time. My little finger gives support as my hand presses against my oak desktop. It's a beautiful, rich, golden desktop, so warm and inviting. I bought the desk for $60 at a secondhand store on Walnut Street. I am not making that up. I bought an oak desk on Walnut Street on a beautiful day in May. I love Dr. Seuss, don't you? The sales guy in the secondhand store told me the desk history. It was from the early 1960s, 2-drawer solid oak, surplus from the University of Florida Library, with a plate labeled with the serial number /University of Florida. I put university in quotes because I am a University of Georgia graduate. And if you know anything about Southeastern Conference football rivalries, you'll understand. Now, let me tell you, I was so excited with the desk beauty and its story that I bought it without much inspection. The desk is priceless. It's 25 inches deep, 42 inches wide, 29 inches high, with 2 side-by-side drawers 3 inches deep. The keyhole drawer locks were removed because, as we know, library patrons are very trustworthy. But I don't want to bore you with too many details. I'm not really a details person. As I sit at my desk, everything fits and works perfectly. My chair is solid oak, armless. It's an absolutely perfect match with my desk. A few weeks after I got the desk, I bought the chair for $4 at a neighbor's yard sale. The neighbor told me that the chair had been surplus by our county. And let me tell you about this cool touch. The chair has, in all caps, library, stenciled in 1-inch black letters on the back of the seat. Can you believe the luck of finding the perfect match for my beautiful desk with library stenciled on the seat and the price? I'm not making this up. It was like I hit the trifecta that one time I went to the dog track. So the plate with the serial number and University of Florida is somewhere on the desk, but I can't find it. I think I remember seeing it. I think it was brass, slightly tarnished, about 1 inch by 3 inches. It must be on the back side, but I can't get to it. There are wires, power strips, subwoofers, all kinds of stuff in the way. I really need to get a handle on all this mess, but that's for another time. So please, just trust me. The desk is from the University of Florida Library, and I know that it's from a library because I know library desks. You had better believe that I know library desks. My mother was a junior high school librarian, and I grew up in a library. And as a side note, believe me, I was raised to know when and how to keep my mouth shut. Although sometimes when I open it, I may say the wrong things, but whatever. Anyways, my freshman year in college, I worked Friday nights at the college library, but it was not the University of Florida Library. I grew up and went to school in Georgia, but I know for sure that there was no difference between Georgia and Florida library desks back in those days. Nothing was different in the schools across America in those times. As I was saying, I worked Friday nights at the college library. I know what you're probably thinking, but you are wrong. I am not a nerd. The library closed at 9 p.m. and I was good to go because the work was easy and I was usually the only one there. Furthermore, trust me, no parties ever started before I got off work. So my active social life was not restrained one bit. And besides, I was invited to all the parties because I'm a cool guy, but you already know that. I don't really know why I'm going to tell you this next story, but here goes. I guess I want to humbly elaborate a bit more on my charmed life. We'll get back to my beautiful desk, chair, and cross pen story in a minute. So we're going to skip back a bit to my senior year of high school. That year, I was invited to join the college chess club. They played every Friday night. That's right. The college chess club invited me into their club. Can you believe that? That was a pretty big deal for a high school teenager to play chess and socialize with college guys, and on a Friday night at that. I grew up fast. Wow, I'm getting dopamine hits just thinking about those nights. But once again, I got sidetracked. And by the way, it wasn't a token invite. I was pretty good, if I must say so myself. My high school chess competitors didn't get invited, in case you were wondering. The point I wanted to get to was that even though College Chess Club technically didn't have an end time, because I know you know how chess goes, I disciplined myself to set a 9 p.m. quitting time. I mean, I wasn't going to just lose to get out of there, but I learned how to manage my matches so that I could be out by 9 and on to the parties. And you probably know by now, life is all about managing time. Besides, 3 hours is a long time to play chess after a long week at school. It can be very exhausting mentally. And senior year wasn't just a piece of cake for a future college-bound drug pusher. I was destined to be a pharmacist because I made A's in chemistry and almost burned down the house with my chemistry set in 9th grade. I'll save the chemistry and drug stories for another time. So just to remind you, I never missed a high school Friday night party because of my time management skills and my personality, if I must humbly confide. And once again, I'll remind you that I'm not a nerd. But here's a secret I've learned, and I'll share with you, my trusted readers. If you keep telling folks the same thing over and over and over, well, never mind. You probably already know that secret. So let's get back to my story about my beautiful library desk from the University of Florida Library that I bought at a secondhand store on Walnut Street on a beautiful day in May. Now, even if that serial plate doesn't turn out to be on the back of the desk, the guy that sold me the desk has a lot of street cred, and he can be believed. Let me tell you how I learned this. That guy told me his life story. He's an alcoholic and has a history of domestic issues with his wife. It seems like they both really enjoy fighting, physically. He runs off and gets drunk and comes home, and she's been drinking and she's jealous that he's running around on her, and then one thing leads to another, but it's all good. He tells me they've divorced and married each other at least 2 times, I think. You know how your brain kind of checks out when someone's telling you something that you don't believe you should be hearing? Well, that's what happened. They may have gotten divorced and remarried more than 2 times. I don't know. I suddenly come back to life when he tells me that she's in the back of the store. I look towards where he's pointing, and I see a woman. She's the only person there. It's got to be her. She looks like she's holding up some kind of fabric or cloth in one hand and a shiny silver object in the other hand. It may be a staple gun or maybe a firearm. I can't tell. But my fight or flight brain assesses that she definitely does look like a fighter. She has that look. I hope that she can't hear what her 2-time alcoholic husband's been telling me. I guess it's a good sign that she's still in the back of the store and I haven't heard a gunshot. I look around and quickly plan my escape routes. Anyhow, before I get more distracted, I told you all of this to point out that my new friend told me the truth when he said that the desk came from the University of Florida Library. You have to trust someone that is so honest and bears their soul to you. That's just the way it is. It's an unwritten code of the South. I don't care how people look at things up north. When in Rome, do as the Romans do, or something like that. I think I heard a saying like that one time. And furthermore, with or without rules and codes, I can read people pretty well. That man wasn't lying just to make a sale. He knew from the get-go that I wasn't a sucker, and now we're friends. So the next time I have to move all these wires and junk around, I'll get to the back of the desk and hunt down that cereal plate. I'm pretty sure it's there. I'll even take a picture and show it to you. You can trust me to do that for you. I'm going to wrap this story up now. This is how the story will end. Between my thumb and index finger of my right hand, I'll firmly hold the top barrel of my lovely writing implement. Using my thumb and index finger of my left hand, I'll gently turn the lower barrel clockwise. The fine black ink tip will retract into the body. Near the right corner of my desk, just in front of a small speaker, is a 1-inch thick wooden oval stand with a short wooden dowel rising an inch from the center. Anchored into the dowel is a small stained wood cutout in the shape of the state of Georgia. There are 3 small holes drilled an inch deep into the flat top. That is the home for each of my 3 writing implements: my red pen, my mechanical pencil, and my beloved Cross Fine Point black ink pen. An emblem of my alma mater's mascot adorns the front of my pencil and pen's home. It is the head of an English bulldog, sporting a red and black striped cap with the letter G, standing for Georgia. The storied mascot looks to be giving me an ugly, vicious look as I conclude my writing session. This has been a very cathartic session. I feel really good. I take my special pen and put it in its home. Then I sit back in my chair and rest for a few minutes. When I feel completely relaxed, I begin the first reading of my story aloud. My English Georgia Bulldog is my audience. The reading begins and all is going well. The further I get into the reading, the more I notice that the menacing look on the bulldog's face is fading. The look is friendly, happy, inviting. The end of the story arrives. Everything is at rest. The desk, the chair, the ink pen. Those were only beautiful means for comforting and revealing the writer's mind, because the real beauty is in a writer's words. Words that bring us all together. Words that make us all one. Words that make us all feel alive. And even a smiling English bulldog can recognize that beauty. I'm seeing that picture for you right now.
Keith, that was awesome. I, first of all, I'm so glad that you're not going to go the Kafka route. I'm so glad that it was so reassuring to me. I love how you open with the discussion of like leaving instructions for your work to be preserved, because I'm kind of like, yeah, hell yeah. Like there's so much writing about how authors want their work destroyed upon their death, or like leaving instructions, burn everything, or everything I didn't publish is bad, or whatever. And I love, like, because your work so often offers like a really refreshing and, like, dare I say, encouraging counterpoint to the like pervasive like despair and angst of like the misery tourism milieu. Like I love the idea of like pushing back against that perception of like the tortured artist, the artist who wants to see, doesn't feel satisfied with their work and wants to see it destroyed, but instead like offering a picture of like art that really is satisfying for its own sake, and art that the artist really wants to see survive them. And I love the bit that you do near the end here, where the act of writing like changes the nature, the physical objects in the environment around you, like the way the visage of the bulldog changes. And just like, since so much of the piece is like rooted and anchored to those physical objects, the desk, the chair, what's in the room, like the fact that you chose to end it that way, where like the writing like transforms those objects and like changes the emotional resonance of those objects, especially since this is a piece about, you said it was about catharsis, right? I really dig that. And I also, like, this is my last thing, I really dig the like little bit of darkness that pops up here and there. This is not like a sweet and gentle piece throughout. I love, you go on like the like at the end of your piece about like how you want your work preserved, you said make this sudden dip into like all of my teachers are dead, and and you know, that sense of like losing the people you know, the people who have influenced you, and you see that darkness creep in, which I think is pretty fundamental to a piece that's about catharsis too. Like, you need to understand what art is offering a relief from, right? And
Mhm.
it just peaks in there, but it peaks in enough to like not like totally contaminate the uplifting tone and comedic kind of tone you have here, but you see just enough of that reality to make it more poignant and effective. It's really well constructed, Keith.
Yeah. Thanks, William. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. And there's nobody else signed up right now. And it's 9:15. We've got some time. Does anyone want to? John. Okay, John. Yeah, you can go, John.
All right. Have I read Hangman before? I don't think I have.
I'm
I don't-
not sure.
I don't think so.
If you start to
Now
read
you
it, and
mark.
if you've read it before, we'll scream at you. Actually, read it all the way through. I don't care if you've read it before. Like Josh comes here and reads the same 6 poems over and over, so it's fine.
All right. Well, thank you. All right. So I mean, I definitely wanted to read this one at some point because this is like the first story that I consider like to be published by a real lit magazine. So very special to me.
Given that it's us, you got to kind of put scare quotes around real lit mag, but okay.
Well, I I don't consider Maudlin House a real lit mag, so this is a but yeah, I can't remember if I've ever read this one before or not. It's kind of tricky to read, not because it's sentimental, but because I took most of the punctuation out of spite. But here is Hangman. There's a man hanging over me. He follows me around like a balloon tied to my wrist. No doubt there's something to be learned from him, but I don't care. I've been planning a way to kill him. I've tried several methods. They each don't work in their own special way. One time I was driving, letting him flit along outside, and I was driving real fast, and I tried splattering him against the overpass. No luck. He saw it coming for miles. And what he did was he tightened the invisible slack between us and floated himself a foot above my head, the fucker. If I had a knife, I would have stabbed him right there, but I didn't have a knife. Next time I tried a knife, I had to get him down to me low within stabbing distance. This part proved to be very easy. All I had to do was walk into the smallest room in my house, my closet. So I stood there in my closet and he floated over me in there, his back against the ceiling, and I pulled out my knife and I tried slicing him open. He caught it. Ever since then, he's been hanging over me with my knife in his hand. He was a potential threat before, but now he's armed. So I got a gun and I drove us far out into empty dirt nothing fields, and I stepped out of the car and aimed him up. No wind. He hung still, straight above me. I squeezed the trigger, it popped my eardrums, and I shot him once, and I shot him 5 more times. Bang, 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 bang. I didn't hit him once. He dodged them. Now, he was looking down at me with this stupid blank expression on his face. Why was he looking at me like that, staring me down, our eyes locked? I thought about, why was he, this is hard to read. Why was he looking at me like that? Staring me down, our eyes locked. I thought about the bullets. If I fired them straight up, I bolted for the car. Bullets rained down where I stood. The fucker tried shooting me with my own bullets. Not only was he deadly, he was clever. I drove home with his shirt caught full sail and he beamed at me through the rearview mirror. I got home and turned the ceiling fan on and I stood under it, and it made me feel a little better watching him get smacked paddle after paddle after paddle. It felt like I was in control of something until he grabbed the base of the fan and ripped it straight out of my fucking ceiling. I couldn't sleep that night. I was too busy yelling questions up at him. Hey, 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 what are you doing? Hey. He didn't say anything. He just floated up there with my knife in hand. Ever since then, I've been planning something elaborate. Step 1, bait. I wake up and I make a shit ton of scrambled eggs, more than I possibly could eat, but maybe just enough for 2 to share. That's right. Hey, buddy, I call up to him. Hey, you looked hungry up there, so I cooked you up some eggs. He's either privy or deaf because he makes no notion of hearing me. It's getting cold. You better eat them while they're hot. They're good when they're hot. No response. He wasn't falling for it, which was expected and part of the plan. Step 2, guilt. For the rest of the day, I go about my usual activities, but while I'm doing them, I make constant mention of the uneaten scrambled eggs from this morning. You know, I spent a lot of time making those eggs. I've been trying to get more into cooking. It would have been really nice to get some feedback on those eggs. Things have just been so tense lately. I don't know. I just wanted to do something nice for you, but it's all right, I guess. You know, I really gave scrambling those eggs my all. It kind of hurt my feelings that you didn't even taste them. Hangman gave no indication of hearing me, but behind his blank expression, I could feel that something somewhere in him was feeling it. Something was there. I repeated the process the day after. I made scrambled eggs for 2. Hey, buddy, you looked hungry up there. And I could tell that stupid fuck was eyeing up the plate full of delicious scrambled eggs that I made. And I was making scrambled eggs this morning, and I just thought I'd make a little extra. I saw him waver a bit, but he still didn't float down. His eggs were cold, so I threw them in the trash and went on my day. Money sure is tight around here. It's a shame to waste such good eggs like that. And they were such good eggs, too. I know you would have liked them. I worked really hard on them today. Oh well. Third day, I scramble the eggs, 2 plates, one for me, one for him. I scoop half the pan into my plate, half into his, and I walk back to the stove and set the pan down, and I say something like, just whipped up some eggs. Thought you'd like some. I turn around, his eggs are gone. I look up, his mouth is full of egg. I sit down and eat my eggs. The trap is sprung, the beginning of the end. Every day I cook up eggs, and each day he takes a little longer to eat them until he's sitting down with me for a full breakfast. He sets the knife down. I go about my day. I feed him small talk about the weather and sports, and I repeat the process every day. I start making him lunch, making him dinner, and he sits down next to me in the living room. We watch the Red Wings lose, the Lions lose, the Pistons lose, the Tigers lose. I make a comment that Martha should sell the damn team already. He nods along. Sometimes I'll go out and grab a beer with him, and we get to stumbling around each other. I cook up a special dinner, steak and asparagus and baked potatoes and shit. We sit across from each other. We drink red wine over candlelight. He talks to me, confides in me. We feel safe with each other. He tells me that I've come a long way since we first started out. He talks about growth, about friendship, and about loving yourself. I'm enjoying the conversation. I tell him I'm much less self-conscious. I tell him I've come to terms with letting new people in my life. The oven timer goes off. Oh, that's a souffle. At this point, I'm a masterful cook. I walk past him to the kitchen to get the dessert, and I come back out with it. He says something like, you finally come to terms with it. You see, I'm a representation of your, but he didn't finish it because I didn't walk out of the kitchen with a souffle. I walked out of the kitchen with a baseball bat, and I bashed his brains clear out of his head. Nothing was learned.
John, I think this is the first piece of yours that I read. I'm pretty sure it is because we published this a while before you came to Misery Loves Company for the first time. And I love what a completely scathing takedown this is of like the metaphorical piece, like the piece where it's like, this is a piece about depression, where depression is like, you know, this object in the room. It's like, this glass is depression, and the whole, you know, it's such a hilarious takedown of those kind of pieces, and yet it also works as one of those like existential reflections on depression or like self-loathing, or but it never tips into pretension. It never tips into being like self-important or anything. It's always balanced on that razor's edge. And then the ending, like the nothing is learned moment, when he just like he's ready to tell you the meaning of the story, and you're just like, bam. It's so good. It's so good, and it's so funny throughout, John. I'm glad we got the chance to publish this piece, actually.
I'm very glad you did publish it.
Yeah, this is awesome. I just want to say the art for this, I forgot how awesome the art was
Oh, thanks.
for this. As it's real. But no, it was an awesome piece, John. Yeah, William pretty much said it.
Well, thank you for, publishing it. This was really the piece that made me feel like when I got published, it's like, oh, I'm a real writer now. So I've always appreciated that. So I felt I had to read this at some point, I guess. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, John. And thank you for making art. You probably saved me like 45 minutes of fucking around with Emma State that day.
No problem.
Yeah, well, thank you, John. Does anyone else want to read? We could probably squeeze in one or two more if somebody else wants to read here. I didn't see, Rudy, did anyone say anything in the chat while John was reading?
Looking back here,
I didn't see anyone, but sometimes I'll
didn't
miss people
see
because I'm following.
yeah, I didn't see anybody. No.
All right, last call here, guys. If not, we can shut it down. We can always do this again next week. We will be doing this again next week.
Hey,
but-
William, what are
Yeah.
the rules? Are we supposed to read Misery Tourism?
Oh, you can read literally
anything.
Yeah, no, you didn't read anything.
You have a napkin that you found in a gas station.
I've got
bathroom?
an
I mean,
app. Yeah,
literally, if you have a piece you want to read, it can be literally anything.
I can, but the hurricane's hitting here. I'm in southern Mexico. So can you hear me?
Yeah, loud
Yeah, I
and
hear
clear.
you. I hear you well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll read the toothpaste if that's cool. Cool. Hi guys. So
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
no.
the
Awesome.
This is the toothpaste. She does it exactly the way I would do it. She will squeeze the tube of toothpaste in the exact middle, throttle in it with her relatively giant fingers until it is almost out. After which, she rolls the tube from the bottom so as not to, that's my cat, so as not to waste the last of it. Then she throws the completely empty tube of toothpaste into the wastebasket. We don't have any problems at all, except they got inside somehow and roped us to the tub, and it has been 7 hours now. Not sure if they have a plan for us. I'm less sure about the gash over my eye. What was it from a boot? But I can't see out of it. And she stopped moving 15 minutes ago. We're good. The toilet paper doesn't go on a rack. We have a basket for it. You take it out of the basket, no worries, no headaches. And the lid of the toilet, wait till I tell you. I put it down, she puts it up. We don't have a toilet seat, we have a teeter-totter. And the toothpaste with clumsy fingers. That's it. Thanks for listening, guys.
Colin, I love this piece. Of course, I love this piece because we published this piece. But oh my God, for such a brief piece, this is constructed so perfectly because you get that like the domestic normalcy of those first few sentences, and you feel like the menace creeping in, and then you get that at the like pitch black, like, the moment of like real terror, and then it recedes and it's replaced by the domestic normalcy again after you've thrown like the reader off. And it is so like, this is such like a viscerally upsetting piece. Like in its simplicity, it is so fucking effective. I really dig this piece, Colin. I'm glad you decided to read it here because I needed to be reminded of it.
Oh, thanks, William. But my question is like, so this is literally the first reading I've ever done in my life. So how would you have read it? I mean, would you have slowed it down a bit, or was that?
I mean, delivery is tricky. Delivery is something
Yep.
that frankly I struggle with when I read quite a bit. My tendency is like, I tend to trip over myself. I tend to get anxious while I'm reading, and I start reading too fast. Usually
Yeah.
that's what happens to me personally. And that's kind of, for me personally, that's kind of a recipe for disaster, because what I've always been told is you should be like 5 or 6 words ahead in your brain so that you can't be, it's harder to fumble a word that way, right? Because once your mouth is in the same place as your brain, like the chance for the opportunity for disaster escalates. But no, Colin, I think you did a great job. I think that as someone who like has some anxiety about reading myself, I think you did a really good job with it. And I think the main thing is just like, for reading, it's like you go and you like read, and if the environment is good and if you feel good about the piece, like then you feel good about the reading, right?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for providing us with this forum, William.
Yeah, definitely. And
And
come back
yeah.
anytime, and you
live
have
live
another
on,
short piece
misery
in the
tourism.
same
I mean, come
misery
on.
tourism post. Oh, sorry, I stepped on you a little bit there.
No.
That was awesome. The delivery was good, and it sounded like you were having fun and enjoying what you wrote, and that's the most important thing, for reading. I mean, it sounds cliched, but I mean it was, and the delivery. I like how like kind of stayed and like laid back it was like with the piece, and because it fits with the piece, right? It's like, yeah, we're going along, going. Oh, and all of a sudden we're tied up in a bathtub here. And I really like that piece. It's so good.
Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you, Colin. To answer your question, Ramona, no, sadly, Rudy and I have not changed our minds yet about misery tourism closing. I mean, the reality is, oh, hello, Mr. Bones. Yeah. Oh, you think you disagree, Mr. Bones? Well, okay. But the reality is, I think if nothing else, like we need a break from this for a little bit. I think Rudy and I right now are just in places in our own lives where the sense of darkness is so pervasive, and where like the depression and being in a tumultuous life situation and all that shit, I think sometimes you have to give yourself the out. You have to be able to say, I'm going to let go of these I'm going to let go of these responsibilities. I'm going to let go of these things so they don't become oppressive, which doesn't mean that misery tourism won't come back at some point, right? Like sometimes you let go of responsibilities and you feel the relief, and then you get to a better place and you're like, oh, I can come back to this, and Rudy and I are going to keep the website up, and we're going to keep it online. So if a year from now, 2 years from now, 6 months from now, who knows, we decide, oh, you know what, I kind of miss doing misery tourism. All we have to do is make a tweet saying that we're open for submissions again, right? So there's no like permanent end to it. And since after all, it's just something like two random dudes are doing in their fucking mother's basement, there's not a lot of like infrastructure you have to keep up, or like it's not like we have to get the band back together or get the team back together. As long as one or both of Rudy and I are still kicking, it's always a possibility. Sorry, I didn't know, Rudy, if you wanted to say anything about that.
Yeah, no, I think William pretty much said everything. But yeah, no, we're gonna keep the website online, and we'll still be doing like maintenance stuff, like so like basically corrections to pieces, and stuff that people will send us if somebody says, hey, like we need this change or pull downs and whatever people want to do. We'll still be doing that stuff, and the website will definitely remain online for indefinitely, pretty much. So yeah, just for me personally, I won't speak for William. I'm just at the point where I got a bunch of stuff going on in my life, and it's really kind of taken over a lot of the energy I had for doing misery tourism stuff. So that's all. It's nothing really against anybody. It's just it's just different priorities, I guess.
Yeah.
Prioritize different things.
Yeah, ditto. Exactly what Rudy said. It's just you arrive at a place in your life where it's like, oh God, like, can I get up today? Let alone, yeah. But
yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I don't want to get too maudlin and go on too much about any of this stuff, because we're still ass deep in our last batch of submissions. That it doesn't even close until the 31st. And then after that, there'll still be submissions to process, and there'll be pieces we've accepted that will be going online. So we won't be saying goodbye to misery tourism for a solid probably couple of months or more now anyway. So we can save the tearful goodbyes for then. And Misery Loves Company is going to keep going till, I don't know, the sun burns out or one of us is dragged behind a truck. Whatever. Anyway.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I hope it's me.
Man, I don't know. We're gonna have to fucking
If I
do
go to
rock,
maybe
paper, scissors, Rochambeau to see who gets to get dragged to death behind a truck.
statistically, it should be me. By all rights, it should be me. It's my right to have that happen to me.
Yeah. We'll see. Anyway, I guess we'll that sounds like a good place to call it for the night, huh? So I think we'll end the reading there, but as we usually do, I'm going to leave the Zoom meeting open for a bit if people want to hang out and talk or whatever. So if you're watching this on YouTube, this has been Misery Loves Company. As I said at the top, we do this every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you want to participate, anyone's welcome to come and read their work. And anyone's also welcome to just come and lurk. We tweet out the Zoom link from our Twitter account at Misery Tourism. And thank you to everyone who read tonight. I needed to pick me up tonight, and this was exactly that. So thank you guys. I really enjoyed everything. And yeah, fuck it. That's it.